Welcome back to, officially, the 99th best sports podcast in South Africa. It's the Lapdown Podcast. I'm Alex, that's Dan. We've made it. Dan, we've made it.
It was a good run. Call it a day. We've completed it. We don't need to do anything. We are the Jarno Trulli of South African sports podcast. He was a Formula One driver before Drive to Survive. Just yeah. I said it and I thought he's a Formula One fan. He knows who Jarno Trulli is. And then I remembered that he's a Formula One fan from about 4 years ago.
I know Jarno Opmeer. He does video games.
You're half right.
Got it.
Nailed it.
But it's exciting. It's exciting. We're 99th best. I don't know if I trust these metrics. They were just emailed to me by a nice man. But hey, we'll take it. And we're back again. We're allowed back. We're going. F1 is happening. Look, what more do you need? What more do you need? Better racing is what more that we need.
That would be nice.
Pop
that would be refreshing.
Yeah.
It? I saw whilst I was scrolling through the social medias this morning, there was a clip that popped up from an Australian Grand Prix that I would think was probably about 2004-ish. And it was Schumacher and it was Montoya. They're also two Formula One drivers that happened before Drive to Survive happened.
I've heard of Mick.
Close. Mikhail, just an extra couple of kind of letters on the end.
Stick them up.
But anyway, and they were changing positions, and they were overtaking each other, and they were slipstreaming, and they were having a race. And I think that's been lost on Formula One.
The racing?
Yes.
It's quite a key part.
It could be. I mean,
central.
Yeah. Please. Just
you didn't see Saudi. We'll say that up front.
No.
You missed that because you were off in Yeehaw, land. I would say it's not a great sign that you didn't feel the need to go and seek out a way to watch that full replay, or indeed watch some extended highlights of that Grand Prix.
So I checked the result, and I saw the winning margin, and I thought, I don't need to waste an hour and a half of my life. So I didn't. I just went out and explored. Undoubtedly, at some point, and I think I spoke about it before I went out there, but I undoubtedly, because I went to New Jersey and not New York, I probably walked on maybe the start-finish straight of what will be dubbed the New York Grand Prix in 2027, that clearly won't be in New York, but might show some kind of glimpse of the Manhattan skyline, and therefore it'll look good on a T-shirt and we'll be able to get away with it.
Yep, perfect. And to be fair, at this rate, if we're big in South Africa, and big is in quite a small font, they haven't got a Grand Prix at the minute. All I'm going to say is the demand is there, evidently. The people are wanting it, and the people are obviously wanting New Jersey, where I think we're forging ahead on not new locations. I believe they've raced in South Africa before in Formula One.
They have.
Have they?
Yeah, quite a few times.
See? I know what's up. I think we are paving the way for return or new calendar entries, and I think we're the podcast for that. Definitely.
I think so. And I think first on the list of any Formula One media outlets and promo companies and things, undoubtedly drop us an email. What is our email address actually? lapdownpod@gmail.com.
That's the one.
Reach out because we would like to be there, wherever there might be.
I'll be on a poster. Yeah, get me on a billboard.
Yeah,
let's do it.
And I promise, I promise that both of us will look happy when Max wins by 3 weeks.
Give it absolutely huge South African limbs. The biggest limbs you've ever seen in Johannesburg. Right, well, I'm going to have to lead on plenty of this race recap bits then. I know you've seen little bits on clips and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think you're in a nice spot to discuss my first point, which is the curious case of Danny Ric in Saudi Arabia. Because you'll have obviously seen, the results that he finished a lap down, get the brand out there, in P16. Now, that isn't really representative. And it brings up an issue that I've noticed in F1 over the last couple of years, which is TV direction and the fact that the TV direction is honking. And I will put a disclaimer on this. I have been in live broadcast producers, trailers, and stuff like that, and I have seen the disgusting wall of camera angles and inputs and overlays and all the stuff that sits in front of them. It's a hard job. It is an incredibly hard job, and I take every hat I have off to those directors and producers that are getting live sport on, because it's a very niche skill. Can we have a different one for Formula One, please? Because Danny Ric had, and I can't remember the exact number, but it was near enough a 40-second pit stop during the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. We had no Ted, so he wasn't there to go, it's a slow stop for Danny Ric. So nobody knew about this. You just look up, and then all of a sudden, Danny Ric is miles off the pace, miles down the field. And it's, hang on, what's going on here? Usually you'd get a replay. F1 TV are quite good at doing their pictures in pictures. You might get Crofty, might go, Danny Ric's dropped back down the field. Oh, we're just going to go down to the, Sky pad. What's happened? Oh, he's had a slow pit stop. Sweet. Great. I am a Danny Ric stan. I'm going to defend him. But he's now getting crucified in Instagram comments and the like. People saying how trash he is and look how far behind Yuki he was, and he was nowhere. He was so far behind. He had 40 seconds added to his... He had a double lot of Magnussen penalties added onto his race for no reason. And it didn't get mentioned by either commentary team or get shown at any point. And I'll step down off me soapbox now, but you've got to do better. That's a major event in this race, albeit a bloke that was in P15 or whatever it was at the time. You got to show me, or at least tell me that it's happened, right?
Yeah. 40 seconds is quite hard to miss in the world of splitting cars on grids by thousandths of a second, isn't it? Like 40 seconds is quite a large margin, and you would hope that something quite so significant like that would be covered off in some way or another. Because as you said, yes, okay, he finished 15th. I mean, he finished so far behind Yuki Tsunoda that Yuki was also a lap down as well. So big whoop, who cares? I think Formula One finds itself in such an interesting position right now, in the fact that it's got, clearly we learnt last week or the week before that the head of the Formula One branch of the FIA was, last time out in Saudi, funnily enough, was twisting the arms of people to remove penalties for certain drivers. We don't need to get back into Abu Dhabi 2021 again. We don't need to do that. We obviously have kind of an existing fan base, and we have a new fan base, and I think Formula One's really struggling to kind of balance this show that they've got whilst it also is continuing to be sport. Because it is first and foremost sport, and it's also quite a nerdy sport as well. And I don't think that matters whether you're an old fan or whether you're a new fan. If you like Formula One and you like watching cars that look like they should be able to drive upside down in a tunnel and so fast that they can go around corners without braking and all this other good stuff, it's a nerdy sport. I don't care how cool you think you are. It's an incredibly, incredibly nerdy sport. And particularly when you're getting your stopwatch out and you're thinking, do you see Fernando there went 0.2 quicker than Lance in Sector 3? It's a fucking nerdy sport. Embrace it. So to lose 40 seconds of it, people are going to be interested in that nerdiness. And it isn't just going to be a case of, Danny Ricciardo shit. It's like, no, what happened in that 40 seconds? Did the wheel kind of come off? Did AlphaTauri forget the wheel? Did they take the wrong compound of tyres out to the box, and then therefore they kind of bolted on 3 softs and a medium and went, oh, bollocks, we need to sort this out sharpish. And then they went back in and bought out 3 mediums and a soft and went, oh, shit. And then they kind of went back in and then maybe somebody kicked the front wing and snapped the end plate off and went, oh, bugger, we're going to have to change that now as well. People are interested in this stuff because everybody that likes Formula One is a massive bloody nerd, and just embrace the nerdiness Formula One. And remember, it's a sport. It's not a show. It's not drama. It's a sport here, and then it's a Netflix documentary afterwards.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So 40 seconds, right? The fastest...
You can do a lot in 40 seconds.
You can do so much in 40 seconds.
It's longer than
I was trying to find what the fastest lap of the race was in Saudi. Because if you think, essentially, give or take, most laps are somewhere around 1:20, aren't they, generally, I think, in a Formula One race, give or take. He's spent half a lap stood still. He's essentially done half a lap more than everybody else.
Yeah, fastest lap in the race at Saudi was 1:31. So yeah, pretty much just under half.
He has essentially done sectors 1 and 2 again compared to everyone else in the field with that pit stop, and we were none the wiser in any way. And it's just, they've just got to be better. And I think to touch on your point as well about it's a sport and it's a nerdy sport, you see a lot of chat at the minute from arguably probably fans like me that are more recent fans that forget that it is also technically, I believe, first and foremost, a car building competition. And then on top of that, well, underneath that, I suppose, in terms of importance, it's a competition of who can drive those very fast cars the best. But sitting over the top of that is who can make the car go round the track the fastest. And people forget that. And everyone at the minute has a wonderful idea, and we're guilty of coming up with these wonderful ideas about how we make the racing better. But there are people now suggesting that we should be bringing in artificial handicaps on the cars, or that everybody should drive everyone else's car over the course of the season, and all these ideas like this because they think it's a driver's competition.
Yeah.
And that they went down to the shop and they went, okay, pick your name out of the hat. Right, you get to pick the car. You're going to have the really quick car. It's fundamentally a competition about who can make the car best. And the person that made the car best was Adrian Newey in Red Bull. And as annoying as it is, and as much as we will, I'm sure, all season complain about it, hats off, lads. You deserve it. We shouldn't be, you don't get... When Roger Federer was untouchable for how many years, the International Tennis Federation didn't start going, well, okay, Roger, you have to play with a half-size racket now because you're too good and we can't have you keep winning. It's not good for the sport.
Yeah.
People went, Jeezy peeps, man. That Roger Federer is good at hitting that tennis ball, isn't he? Fair play. I'm going to buy his hat and his shoes. Like, you just, yeah. I don't get it.
But
I don't get
those
it.
conversations, they still existed back in the late 90s and early 2000s. There was a lot of talk about Schumacher and his dominance, and kind of people talking about, well, I wonder if we, like, similar to what your idea was the other day, like, oh, I wonder if we reversed the grid. I wonder what would happen there. I mean, he'd still win. And I wonder what would happen if everybody else got to have a go in the Ferrari. And you kind of go, well, Michael would probably still be that way up the other end of the grid in any of those other cars. So those conversations have always existed. Like, that's not a new thing to the sport. I think everybody's always constantly trying to make it as close as possible. But in reality, I don't think Formula One, ever since it started, has ever had kind of a grid full of cars within, say, 15 seconds of the leader when they all cross the finish line. These races go on for an hour and a half. They cover 300 plus kilometers in that time frame. Like, things happen and things will kind of spread out naturally. And as you said, like, the Red Bull team and Adrian Newey and all those people that kind of work underneath him have created the best thing. But equally, I can understand why people are a little bit frustrated by it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't make good TV. At the start of this season, what odds would you have given yourself for Max to have gone through and won every single one of these 22, 24 races on this calendar?
Not worth betting on.
No. So
the return that you would have gotten, or you would have had to have invested, I think, so much money to get a decent enough return from it that the risk would have outweighed the reward.
But to have won
I don't
every
think it would have
race,
been worth putting a bet on.
like, that's never happened in history. 24 races, and you'd go, well, don't even think it'd be worth a quid. Like, surely something that's never happened in history, unreliability, accidents, weather, all so many contributing factors. Maybe you could come up with a story of going, it could have been 100 to 1, maybe 50 to 1. But now, after these first two races, like, I think you're looking at single figures on this now. I genuinely don't really see the only way that I see Max not winning one of these races is if the power unit in that Red Bull goes pop.
Yeah.
That's it. Because I think he could take engine changes, gearbox changes, ICU changes, every single race, start plumb last, and I still think he'd turn up and absolutely piss all over everybody else.
Yeah. I think, it's as simple as that. I don't have any argument. I've got some odds for you if you'd like.
Please.
Max Verstappen, 17 plus race wins.
Yeah.
1-2.
Wow.
17 plus. He's got 2 already, obviously.
Yeah. So
but 1-2.
You're putting £1 on that and you're getting 50p back.
Yeah. That's not what you really need.
If you've got a few £100,000 laying about, that feels like printing money.
This is my point. You've got to invest so much to get that to turn around. Here's a big question for you. Yes. Right? Here's my big question of the day. You take Max Verstappen and we invent a driver exchange program. he has to drive Zhou's, what are they called now? Kiki Bippy, right?
Yeah.
This weekend in Australia, right? Where's he finish?
Top 6.
So you're not giving it to him, but he's up there.
Yeah, I wouldn't
is
give
he
him...
going? Is he going podium?
I suppose what's really hard is the fact we've never really seen Max in this dominance form in anything else. He was bloody good in that Toro Rosso when he started, to be fair to him, and did kind of create that ridiculous moment, didn't he? Where did he win? Was it Monza that he won? Spain? Like 16-year-old Max Verstappen, like won whatever. A top 6 for sure. I don't think I could give him a podium. In Australia, I think I could probably bank on him getting a podium in the race after Australia, though.
Okay. Which is what? Japan.
Yeah, I do think he's the real deal. I don't think he's necessarily. I don't think for an English fan he's particularly handled himself brilliantly during a couple of those seasons, which is why I think there's quite a bit of animosity towards him on these shores in the UK. But yeah, he is the real deal. He is as good as what anybody else has ever been that's ever sat in one of those Formula One cars. He is the mustard and deserves every bit of success that he's got, because at the moment he's better than everybody else.
Here's a question then. Second big question. Here's another question. Based on that, say we flip the timeline here of 2021, right? And it's Valtteri that is having the Lewis Hamilton season that year, right, as an individual. And the script pans out exactly the same way, but we've just swapped those two driver names over in the config file. Is Max Verstappen today as strongly... I don't want to say hated, that's too strong a word, but is there as much opposition to Max Verstappen today as an individual if he was going up against Valtteri in that exact same sequence of events and winning the championship in the same way in Abu Dhabi and all the rest of it, than because it was Lewis Hamilton?
I think you're talking like single percentage differences, because I still think he handled himself like a massive melon. Like, I don't think he covered himself in glory with a lot of the things that were said. And I still don't think... Honestly, with that Abu Dhabi situation, it wasn't... Don't get me wrong, like, Max didn't orchestrate that either. Like, he didn't kind of tell the safety car to...
He's an innocent bystander in that whole situation.
Yeah, he benefited from a really, really unique situation that I still couldn't convince myself would have played out differently if certain things had happened. So... but I think he could have beaten anybody to that World Drivers title, and I think people would still sit there and kind of go, well, first one was a bit dodgy though, wasn't it, mate? Not his fault, but it's a bit dodgy.
Yeah, fair. I wasn't sure how much Team LH44 and their very loud voices on a lot of social platforms sort of riled, because you don't see a lot of VB77 stan accounts. There's plenty of love for Valtteri.
Yeah, there's a lot.
But there's not so much stannage of Valtteri.
And there aren't many Formula One drivers that have got their arse out on canvas either. So you'd think there would be more people that would be on board with VB77, wouldn't you?
You'd think. And yet, they're just keeping their head down.
Gap in the market, though. If the podcast fails.
We'll have a go. Other things, Crofty's given up, is what I've written in my notes. I don't think he said Max Verstappen double-digit times over the course of that race. And even when Verstappen won, you could tell that Crofty was just absolutely gagging to start talking about Ollie Bearman. He was like, okay, and yeah, Max has won, but Ollie Bearman has finished. Oh, he's done it. Which, fair play. I like this new approach, and fair play Ollie Bearman, because, I mean, that was a hell of an impressive thing to do, full stop. To have jumped in. The pressure, I think, was different for him compared to like someone like Nick De Vries, who was in arguably exactly the same situation. The pressure was not on De Vries in the same way. That everyone kind of went, well, you're in the Ferrari, Ollie. Like, you've got the car here, arguably, to win the real people's race. Like, how are you going to do? And I think he was near enough faultless.
I think, yeah, to be parachuted in kind of last minute, I think is incredibly impressive. It's a bit of a free hit, isn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, he knows that he's not going to get the seat next week. Carlos should be back, God willing, that he's kind of recovered from it was an appendix operation, wasn't it, that he had removed?
Yeah, it's Gornsky.
Yeah.
It's Gornsky.
So he kind of knew that he wasn't actually going to continue on that. And he also knows that he isn't going to get a drive for Ferrari next year either, or probably the year after that. So, yeah, a complete free hit for Ollie Bearman. But all it's probably done is just thrown another name in the little blender that is the driver market for 2025, and Ollie Bearman can be spoken about now with what seat that he might have. Do Ferrari still have the Sauber as like the feeder team? I know they were working quite closely together.
They're Haas.
They're Haas.
So,
so maybe there's a place there. I mean, it worked 100%. For Mick, didn't it, in that previous year? So could be a seat for him.
Yeah. I mean, we've got to applaud the fact he didn't put it in the wall either. Like, that's for all the tracks to have jumped into. There's an incredible video I saw on social that makes you appreciate the bodies of these athletes. There's a top and bottom comparison of the driver, like behind the driver camera, and the head of Ollie Bearman going around the same bends as Charles Leclerc underneath him, and Charles is like a steel pylon. It's not moved. You'd think he was sat stationary. And Ollie Bearman is going this way, and this way, and this way, and this way. And it's scary how he managed to complete 70-odd laps, not really being able to see where he's going, because his head is constantly just giving it that one in the car. And you think, cheesy, just fair play. Fair play, Oliver. Well done. Up the Chelmsford. What an accent on him, by the way. Have you heard Ollie Bearman speak?
Do you know what? I haven't. Go
and find it, because this is a man that's posh,
yes,
from Chelmsford, but has also spent a lot of time in Maranello and around Italian people, because he just kind of wobbles between the two of them, and it's quite a mix.
Do you know, I would have guessed.
It's quite a mix.
I would have guessed posh.
Yeah, he just looks at them.
Yeah, well, I mean, and he races Formula One cars.
True. His dad owns a investment firm something. So yeah, I know. Can you believe it? His dad, by the way, star of the week. His dad is on the telly being consoled by the literal chairman of Ferrari, who's coming over and trying to calm him down and putting his arm around his shoulder. And it's like, that's just two dads being dads.
Yeah.
That was the best moment of the weekend, was just two dads. Like, Elkman's kid's in the garage. Like, he's just he's there on Snapchat. But then he's just, Ollie's tearing around this track. His dad's pulling his hair out, and Elkman's like, it's fine. Come on. You've got this. I believe in you. Like, the man just the money between the two of them. But well done, Ollie. Well done, Ollie. And then just one last thing to box off Saudi. The whole Kevin Magnussen situation, which you're aware of.
Yeah.
First, I'm going to say fair play, Kevin. He executed it very well. And there are calls from people saying that, we need to put regulations in so that teams can't deliberately do that and drive slow. And it's like, no. First of all, there's no proof that was not Kevin at max pace. And there's no way to prove that. The car might have had an issue. Kevin might have had a sore foot. You never know. That might have been his absolute maximum pace. What Kevin Magnussen did highlights is not an issue with the regs. It's not an issue with the Haas. It's not an issue with the sport. It's an issue with the tracks. Because if you have got a Formula One track where there is a bloke deliberately driving as slowly as he can, and 6 drivers behind him trying to drive as quickly as they can't overtake him for 15 laps or whatever it was, then change your fucking track. That just obviously shows that track is not well designed for competitive racing in these cars. I'll say that because if the cars were smaller, it might be a different situation, but the current cars on that track, that's the track's fault that Kevin was able to do that and nothing more.
Yeah, there's no real braking zone on that track, and I don't really think if the cars were significantly smaller. I mean, if they were go-karts, I think you'd probably stand a better chance because you could go about 5 wide and there'd be lots of different lines to go through there. But if you threw it back 20 years, the cars would still, I think, struggle to really kind of outbrake one another, get alongside. But as you said, these cars now are so wide and there's so much risk involved with going offline on a circuit like this, which leads quite nicely into the kind of talk of the new Saudi Arabia circuit. Actually, no, before we talk about that, can we just highlight the fact that Ollie Bearman as well has just kind of pretty much cemented Logan Sargent to finishing 21st in a 20-driver Formula One calendar as well, which is remarkably impressive.
Logie Bear.
However, this new circuit in Saudi, which listening or looking at like the responses from the Formula One drivers, and I'm sure they've probably received a healthy wedge from whoever it is that have sorted this out for them. They've gone, yeah, all for it. Looks great. Turn one is about 30,000 feet up in the air. Like, you're going to be overtaking jumbo jets as you turn left into this new banked corner. This isn't safe. There was like, what's going to happen? Because some cars sometimes, not all the time, but as we saw with Romain Grosjean at Bahrain those years ago, weird things happen sometimes. What happens if something goes over the edge of it? And it might not necessarily be a Formula One race. What it just goes, well, I mean, technically the track's still safe because the accident happened 30,000 feet below. That's an issue for Saudi Arabia County Council to clear up, because that happened on the M25 of Riyadh.
It's literal Mario Kart, and I will say one thing, not to defend it because we don't know in their renders and all the rest of it. I think it's a slightly deceptive screenshot. The render that shows that big Rainbow Road curve that is, as you say, miles and miles in the air, has like a access support road around the outside of it.
Oh, it's fine then.
Which everyone looked at and went, that's the track, so the only thing separating them and a 120-kilometre plummet is the one wall.
Yeah.
I actually think there's about 250 metres worth of runoff between the track and the edge of Rainbow Road.
The abyss.
Which it probably wasn't... It was probably the most exciting looking render, but probably not the most informative render. And to go to your point about the driver's tweets, I mean, as a man in sports media who has prepared tweets for other people to post in the past, whoever signed those off on the driver's social teams, outrageous. Because make them sound remotely like they're in the right tone of voice. Fernando has never spoken like that, neither has Valtteri, and everyone called him out for it immediately. Come on, lads. It's not that hard to write in your own tone of voice. But, I mean, the rest of the track, if we ignore the hellscape bit, where it gets all Mario Karty, looks quite cool.
Yeah.
And the layout actually looks like quite a good track. It seems like it's got a nice mix of stuff. It's not a street track. There is actually, it's Bahraini style, isn't it? There is runoffs, and the fact that it's through a theme park is kind of cool. Sod it. Let's go. I think they're going to keep both. The original plan was they were moving there, but now it sounds like we're maybe keeping both.
Yeah,
but,
we'll just have two Saudi Grand Prix. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Scrap Silverstone.
Why not 4?
Scrap Monza. Get rid of Monza. Have two
Get rid.
Saudi ones. It does kind of feel like somebody at some point
Monaco.
in Saudi Arabia, whilst going around handing these Rolexes out to these Formula One drivers to kind of sign off on these Instagram posts, they were just on some massive kind of like LSD trip whilst they kind of sorted this out. Because, as you said, they've kind of gone, well, we'll have a little bit of Bahrain in here. We'll have a bit of the Ferris wheel from Suzuka in there as well, because we'll stick it in the middle of a theme park. Oh, and by the way, we'll stick Rainbow Road at the first bend. Like, they have just kind of completely overdosed on something here and come up with the wildest shit ever. What I will say, though, is if it does look like this, and I mean, if there is any area of the world that's going to be able to complete one of these ridiculous tasks, then the Middle East is going to be it right now. Fair bloody play to them. If they come up with this and we turn up, well, we won't, but like we turn the TV on and Saudi looks like that at that first race, you're going to go, shit me, this is good, isn't it? Dangerous, but good. I mean, if you go over the edge, you might find the Titanic and Ocean Gate. You never know. But yeah.
It's there.
It's
good.
The
potential is there. Right. Australia, mate.
Oh, no. Sorry, I have a question for you.
Oh, question.
I have a big question for you. This is a very big question, actually. And this isn't kind of a condescending question because I've watched Formula One for 20 years and all this other like shit. However, obviously, openly, you came into the sport because of that first Drive to Survive season. And realistically, if you really think about it and you go past all the controversy and all of that crap, the second DTS season, wasn't it? It was the 2021 job. You probably couldn't have asked for a better time to start following a sport that you potentially had very little to no interest in beforehand. If you were picking it up now, 2024, and you're thinking like maybe DTS hadn't happened and this was the first or second season of DTS, and you were like, God, I tell you what, I'll give that a watch on Netflix. Are you still a Formula One fan 3 years later, or was the romance and the charisma and the storytelling and the drama that happened in 2021, was that the bit that kind of got you? This is the bit I'm kind of wondering, and throwing back to the point with kind of Formula One worrying about the show. Are we trying too hard to make this interesting for newer Formula One fans?
I think it loops back to what you said earlier. Formula One is for nerds of all kinds, and the cool kids have arrived, and the cool kids are now taken over with their baseball caps and their fun jackets and their alcohol. That I think the romance is gone, and what happened was we had 21, which brought all the cool kids in because they went, that's really cool. The cool kids are now getting bored of it, as we've seen from like the American TV figures and whatever. They're cooling off. Hopefully, we've retained some of the nerds that found it at the same time that perhaps were not exposed to any sport before. I think F1 is a very good sport for non-sport liking fans, and I think hopefully some of those have stayed. I think where F1 could maybe help itself is forgetting the cool romantic show and lean into the personality game, which Drive to Survive does do now. You know, make me fall in love with Oscar Piastri as a human, and then I will want to watch him. And I don't really care who comes positions 1 to 5 or 7 to 20, because Oscar was P6 and I follow Oscar. Buy me in on individuals, or go all out on the nerd and the engineering side of it, and put that in front of me all the time. Don't give me dumbed down graphics on the broadcast. Go the other way. Talk to me. I want tire chat. I want to talk about wing flap angles and this, that, and the other. Go all in on that, because there are plenty of nerds to go around that they are more likely to stick with it, because the engineering is never going to change. It's always going to be impressive if you like the engineering. The racing you can't directly control without getting a bit Abu Dhabi 2021. So focus on the things you can control or that are constants. And that is engineering, nerdy stuff, and that it's 20 human beings that can all be quite interesting in one way or another. And team principals now, I'll throw them in there. So I'm going to say 30 human beings, because I think James Vowles is an incredibly engaging human. I would love dinner with James Vowles. I think that would be that'd be a good old dinner. But yeah, I think they need to lean into them. And then if you have another romantic season, because Ferrari get their act together, or Max just drops off, or the 2026, the regs or something, close it up. Great. Bonus.
It's a good answer. And I like it, and I'll seal it. It's a seal of approval. You've passed. You've passed the test. Well done. You can carry on.
Stamp it.
Australia, though, and here's another question for you. As a proud Australian person, and an Australian thing, amongst koalas and kangaroos and eucalyptus trees and didgeridoos and all those other kind of stereotypical Australian things.
Got all of them.
Don't think you're allowed to do in 2024, but I've just gone and done it anyway. How big is it? Is it a big event in Australia? The Australian Grand Prix? Do people still care? Is it the big deal? I mean, there hasn't been an Aussie driver near the front for a while now. Does it still carry that same weight?
See, I'm obviously really checked out of the Aussie zeitgeist. Dropping my vocab on you. I've not been living in Oz since 2016, so I am a ways out of it, and I'm remembering back, and I wasn't previously massively into motorsport. But growing up, I remember hearing things about the V8 supercars, and Bathurst in particular, and I was aware of Holden and Ford battling in the V8 supercars, and I played
didn't it?
Yeah, up the mountain and all the rest of it. Like,
fuck, that
let's get
good.
the... If we can Mario Kart in Saudi Arabia, we can F1 around a mountain. And so I remembered hearing about them, and that was talked about. And I think at one point in Bali, I bought like a knockoff Holden like team shirt and stuff with hundreds of NASCAR logos like everywhere on it.
Love it.
I don't ever remember... I never crossed paths with Formula One.
Oh, okay.
I'm obviously in WA, so I'm miles away from Albert Park. Maybe the wrong side of the country. Maybe if you lived in Melbourne, it was a bigger thing. Maybe motorsport in general was a bigger thing. I don't know. But it was always V8 Supercars was like the Australian racing. And that's what I knew. So, yeah, I felt disconnected from F1. I don't know what it's like now. I don't know what it's like now in WA. It probably helps that you've got Oscar and Daniel in there. You've got some Aussies to cheer for now rather than just the one. But yeah, certainly when I was growing up, it was not just in that pop culture widely in the same way that even without looking for V8 supercars, they'd occasionally roar past you.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's interesting, but worth asking the question.
Yeah,
because you are an Australian person.
That's me. Let's ask the question then. Let's ask the big question about the Australian Grand Prix, and that is who's going to finish P2. And the bigger question is who's getting your blue flags. Because, my boy, you've got some catching up to do. Because you're listening to an absolute champion at predicting who's going to be shit. Like, wow.
No, you're doing very well. You are doing very well. And I think
Pierre week 1, and then I've picked Lance, and not only has he gone and put it in the wall,
which I did say,
then memed himself.
I did say that.
Yeah.
When you said Lance, I did say, you know what? I can see him parking it backwards in a wall.
But the fact that he's then memed himself with his own race engineer of saying, can you bring it back? No, I'm in the fucking wall. Like, I think I should get bonus points for the fact he's memed himself and did nothing else. But I'm 2 from 2. Meanwhile, you bet on the wrong Ferrari horse.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there probably would have been an argument if I'd have said Carlos that I probably wouldn't have got a point anyway because the poor git never turned up. So, not a great start. But unlike the actual Formula One World Championship, there is a very good chance that actually there could be multiple race winners for this Blue Flag Award week by week. And with the exception of Max, all other 19 drivers are up for grabs, I think. But I haven't really. Yep. Have you given it some thought for this week? You are the person sat on the top of the podium right now, supping on some nice cold Saudi Arabian imitation rose water champagne. So, who are you going for with your blue flag hat on for the Australian Grand Prix?
I'm sorry to do this to you, Logan. You're up.
I mean, come on now.
Look, I don't like... all I'm saying, right, is I can picture a situation where on, like, lap 3, right, we've got a safety car. Why have we got a safety car? Logan's in the gravel. I think there's a good chance that Logan's just not finishing. I think he's just going to... Like, going down, I don't know the turn numbers, but I'm going to say it's like turn 18 or something like that, where you come down the long back straight and you have the little wiggly bit left and right, and then you come down, it's a hard braking zone for a 90-degree right-hander. I can see Logan Sargent shooting off to Sydney, straight down there. He's just missed his braking point completely, in the gravel, spinning the tyres, he's out. Sorry, Logie.
It's hard to argue, mate. It's so hard to argue. I'd love to come up with a compelling argument to kind of convince myself and everybody else that Logie's going to pick up points this weekend, but I don't necessarily think that's possible. Where do I go? The thing is see, I think my strat so far this competition has almost been kind of pick higher hanging fruit that end up having a worse day. But that hasn't really paid off. I've been close, but not quite on it. I am going to go for... I'm going to go for Oscar.
Oh, you bastard.
I'm shooting high. This is the thing is I want to make this shit interesting.
He is an Australian McLaren driver. Why do you hate me?
I don't hate him. I think there's... Right, so I'm going to continue there's a lot of pressure on this guy going into this weekend theme. And I think there is.
Last week.
And I think there is. I think there's a lot of pressure. I mean, where did he finish? 4th last weekend.
Last week. Looked good.
Pissed
Looked really good.
all over Lando.
Again, strategy issues there. You wouldn't have learnt that. We didn't learn them from the broadcast, but carry on.
Not my problem. I've looked at this at face value and I'm coming up with my point. And I just feel maybe it's not even going to be his fault. Maybe somebody just bumps into him. And just
maybe
goes,
it's Logan.
Oops, sorry, Oscar. And next
maybe it's
thing
a little Logan love tap on the back.
Exactly. Next thing you know, he's sat on the back of a moped with his helmet on, visor down, looking sad. and kind of maybe giving it a little kind of like royal wave as he goes past whatever.
Feels bad.
Yeah,
he has to,
like Foster's grandstand or whatever.
They cut to the crowd and there's a child crying, and then McLaren are going to invite the child into the hospitality, and then you find out that the dad actually kicked the child in the shin to make him cry because they knew the camera was there. They actually support Ferrari, but they just wanted to get some hospo.
Yeah.
Looks good on social. Everybody wins except Oscar.
See that? There you go. There's my blue flags. The thing is, there aren't many of these people I don't like, so I don't particularly want them to have a bad weekend. I just feel like it's more entertaining picking the guys further up the field. Maybe as we get further into the season, I'll give it maybe 4 or 5 weeks, and if I don't, I'll start going on your tactic, and I'll just pick the shittest one.
Excuse me, sir. I picked Lance Stroll, who should be comfortably midfield.
Pierre Gasly, who literally is driving a block of cheese right now.
Driving in a works team Alpine.
Yeah, but the Haas is a works team Haas. If we turned up with a car, put it in the grid, we would have a works team lap down Formula One team.
The Haas doesn't look terrible this year.
No, it doesn't look terrible, but that's the point that you're just ignoring right now. So anyway, you've picked him, dog turd car. You've picked Lance, how he's still got a. Well, we know how he's got a job in Formula One still, but in another kind of parallel universe, we don't understand how he still gets a drive. And now you've picked, bless him, Logan Sargent. And
it's never good in sport when your name is bless him.
No, that's kind of, it's not the words you want to precede that point, is it? But no, good luck to you.
No.
Good luck to you. And I think there's probably a really, really, really good compelling point that you will pick up your third point. Just out of interest, though. Out of interest. Logan finished 14th at Saudi, 1 lap down. I think... And maybe this comes to a point where there's an argument that happens in next week's episode. But I think that's a good day for Logan Sargent. I don't think that's a blue flag event.
No, I would say I'm agreeing. I would take an L if he finishes P15 in Australia.
Good.
I think anything above P17 is a good day for Logie Bear. But I don't think he's completing 61 laps or however many it is. So yeah.
I hope
Will you be
wrong.
waking up? Will you be waking up at 4 a.m. to watch it, Mr. Jets?
No, I have done in the past. And
if it was 2021 again, would you be waking up?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people probably would as well. I think you would. I don't see many people. No, okay, fine. I don't see many people waking up to watch a race that's that's already a foregone conclusion.
No, which is fair. I will watch it in full, but I will watch it in full over a crumpet and a coffee.
Delicious.
At 9:30.
Yeah, splendid.
What a day. Hey, lovely to be chatting again. We got a couple of weeks, not a couple of weeks, but another week after Oz as well for Japan, haven't we?
I think so, yeah, I think so. But we have got some other kind of topics to talk about, haven't we? We've got helmets. What else did I send through to you?
What, like Logan? Lord knows.
Our
we'll cross that bridge when we get to
driver markets. There we go. There's a continuing
that's
topic to talk
early.
about, isn't
That's early.
Yeah, but it's there, isn't it, for the entire year?
Ollie Bearman to Red Bull. There it is.
Oh, there's a hot take of the year.
There's a take. Hey, lovely chatting. Hey, where can they find you on the internet, Mr. Jads?
At Dan Jads, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, and all that other good stuff. Lapdown Pod, actually, which is the more important thing to follow online on all those aforementioned social media platforms. And for yourself, sir?
I'm on Alex Typed That on TikTok and X, which is all you need to do. And you can come watch me on Twitch if you want. Come play video games with me. Twitch.tv/hey look it's Alex. And yeah, go and follow us on TikTok and stuff like that on Lapdown Pod. We get some good little bite-sized content on there. And then if you ever have any thoughts, questions, comments, whatever, throw them our way. We're also on YouTube now as well. And all being well, you might be watching this on YouTube because we should hopefully have full episodes up on there moving forward. But you can see little clips on there as well. So go subscribe in all the places. And if you're enjoying this, even a little bit, you should rate it 5 stars and you should tell a friend to listen to it because then everybody wins. But hey, we'll see you next week after an early start in Australia when Max has won 3 out of 3.
Yep. Lights out.
Lovely chatting.
And away we go.